We have inherited a country which has left behind over 20,000 women and men raped during the wartime, where rape has been used as a tool of war. Still, till today's day, we have over 1,600 people missing in different massive graves within the territory of Kosovo and the territory of Serbia, the occupying country, because of the Milosevic regime.
It's not typical that you get to meet a president of a country. And I just want to start by telling everyone in here thank you. And I mean that, because we are all part of each other's lives. And growing up in a small town, I want to start with a little bit of a story. Life isn't perfect for any of us in this room. Most women in this room have gone through either sexual, emotional, mental, or physical abuse of some sort. Many men in this room have gone through things like that as well. We don't talk about that in our daily life because people don't want to talk about things that aren't comfortable. And when I grew up in a small town, I was very protected. Then I've traveled to 92 countries, so I've met a lot of prime ministers and presidents. I've met a lot of dignitaries like Gabriel from the Vatican. I've met a lot of wonderful people that are now partners and friends and co-workers of mine, even though they hold much higher positions in life than I will ever hold. And I'm always humbled by their leadership and how they serve. But during one of my trips where I was with Gabriel, I think we had 7, 8, 9 presidents there and prime ministers, maybe 13. We had a lot of prime ministers and presidents gathered for a meeting. And I met amazing people because of the Vatican and because of the prime ministers and presidents that gathered there. I went from that trip to Kosovo. Life always unboxes things you never planned. And when I got there, I had the opportunity, God bless you, to meet Madam President. And I have to say this, it's not often you meet someone that catches your breath.
Oh.
I mean that. Because so often we're caught up in our own lives, we forget to look to someone who's stronger or who's done even more than we have. And then when you find that person, it's hard to believe that they're doing that. One of the things I love about Karen Floyd, Pamela Evatt, and the women in this state is how strong they are. It's what I love about the women in Tennessee as well. They are wonderful, the women throughout our country. But when I went to Kosovo, it touched me to meet this amazing woman. And they said, "You're meeting Madam President." And I was thinking, wonder what this president's going to be like. She was the most phenomenal individual, one of the most phenomenal individuals I've ever met in my life. I just want you to think about this for a second. You heard stories about the first females that were African American that served in this state and in this country. She was in a war-torn country, Kosovo, which I came home and one of my children said, "Where's Kosovo?" And so I explained, and for you younger generations in this room, learn about Kosovo. I did understand about the war in Bosnia and Serbia, and I shared with you, Madam President, how I understood. We actually, because of my career and traveling all over the world, I had an au pair from Bosnia for 2 years in my life, and an au pair from Serbia for 2 years of my life. So I knew about this war. What I didn't know was how Kosovo suffered. And I met this amazing woman who stood up for women and stood up for everything she believed in that could help this world, because it was her mission, and we're going to talk about that. You have a choice when people threaten you. You have a choice when people abuse you, or they try to take you down because you are the first person standing into a political arena and you haven't been in politics, like you, Lieutenant Governor. It's a privilege to meet these kind of people, and we can't tell their stories Just like we couldn't tell the story about Kennedy until today we heard it because it was such a great presentation in the book, we have to hear these stories so we can pass the legacy on. It's like the King family. If you don't pass the story on, who's going to hear it? So I want everyone to record what you hear today. I want you to pass this story on. This is not a story about religion. This is not necessarily a story about politics. This is not a story about everything going wrong and nothing going right. This is a story about choosing to get out of bed every day and to serve a country, even through a hardship, even though you're attacked, while you're trying to do the best thing you can in your life and in your spirit to make positive changes. Please welcome Madam President. I hope you guys can see. If not, you may have to stand up. I would like to get a picture of Lieutenant Governor Atifete and of Madam President before we leave. So I'm going to ask her some questions, and I hope that you guys really listen to her responses. It's too much to go through all the things that she's done for this country and for the women of the country. So if you don't mind, I'd like to start.
I'm here for you, Christine. Thank you.
So one of the things about Kosovo is it was in the middle of a war. A lot of people didn't hear about it because it was towards the end, and things just got worse and worse progressively. Can you tell us the story of what happened in Kosovo when the war broke out and what happened to your country?
Well, Christine, thank you very much. Karen, thank you. Lieutenant Governor, thank you very much. And some incredible women that I have met last night and today. And Karen did start with a very good word today that we women should stick to each other and we should support each other. And actually, I want to start by that and I want to finish by that. The reason why I'm saying that because I did not have that support back in 2011 when I was elected as the President of the Republic of Kosovo from a group that I belong to, from the group that's supposed to support me mostly. Well, Christine, going back to your question, 26 years ago, we have inherited a country which has been totally destroyed, not only from the infrastructure point of view, but mainly from the human lives. Only from January, February, and March of 1999, over 13,000 people were killed and massacred. We have inherited a country which has left behind over 20,000 women and men raped during the wartime, where rape has been used as a tool of war. Still, till today's day, we have over 1,600 people missing in different massive graves within the territory of Kosovo and the territory of Serbia, the occupying country because of the Milosevic regime. At the same time, facing with a denial by our northern neighbor to cooperate with the institutions of Kosovo or the international community to show where the remains of our loved ones are. I have still 5 members of my close family missing in different massive graves where we still don't know where they are. And so back in 2011, Christine, we were just after the war, a few years after declaration of the independence back in 2011. It was just 3 years after declaration of independence of Kosovo. Our country was in a kind of deep political crisis because within 2 years, 2 presidents were ruled down by the Constitutional Court because of the violation of the Constitution. Within a year, we have overcome 2 rounds of the parliamentary elections, followed with kind of like quite a negative reporting from the international monitoring mission and the local monitoring mission, up to that level of the fabricated theft of the vote of the sovereign, which was not the case 1 year after I was elected. And at that time, the whole political elite in our country came with the idea and the proposal supported by the international community, mainly by the 5 Queen countries, to nominate the consensual candidate, which in a way will serve as a transitional candidate for the head of state, because by the constitution of our country, if the president is not being elected for 3 times, then the country goes automatically into the parliamentary elections. And literally we did not have that flexibility to go within a year for another round of the election, because we were literally in the age of the civil war. So it took 3 main political parties, led by men, sorry for the men in these rooms, to nominate a woman to come and fix the mess which they have created for a couple of years in a row. And so, to my surprise, to my surprise, I was nominated mainly because of my proven public service background. By that time, I was already the 5-star general because I joined to the security forces immediately after the end of the war for another purpose, because during the civil resistance time and during the wartime, the uniform, no matter the police and the military, was used as a mechanism of the state to do the torture against the majority Albanian population of Kosovo by the Milosevic regime. So every time that me, as a very young lady at that time, I've seen the uniform, I've seen the torture, I've seen beating, I've seen the imprisonment. I personally twice have been the subject of the violence, and I still have a feeling of the boot of the police officer laying in the ground just because I was going to the school that time. And after this political crisis, after the end of the war, I wanted to join to the security forces to introduce the new concept of the policing to more of the Western style of the policing, to be there to save you, to be there to serve you, and to be there to protect you. And on top of that, to introduce the role of the women in a very male-dominated organization, because I come from a very male-dominated society, very patriarchal society. For some of you that traveled in the Europe or in the southeastern part of Europe, you might be a little bit familiar. I know that somebody is from Ukraine here, somebody is from Bosnia and Herzegovina here, and they know that we are quite patriarchal society. And so I want to introduce also the role of the women in a very male-dominated organization. And so back in 2011, these 3 main political parties, they came with a proposal to nominate an independent figure. So my nomination was purely based into my proven public service in high integrity and clean background, personally and professionally, with the 0 affairs till that time, over 15 years in the public service. So I was in a mix of another 12 other candidates which were nominated for the president, most of them males, as you could imagine. And so I made for 3 times the history in our country. First of all, to be the first woman to be nominated and also to be voted for the first time in the first round of voting and elected with 80% of the vote within the country, which Even our historic president did not get the same vote. He was elected with the same vote, but in the third round of the voting. The second history was that I was non-partisan because I did not belong to any of the political party. I was independent, and I continue to remain independent throughout my mandate. And the third is the age. I was only 35 years of age. Yeah. When I was elected as the president of Kosovo, and still till today's day, it is the youngest head of state democratically elected in the world. I'm hoping somebody is going to beat, especially a woman, that level. And I did not know, Christine, that there was a hidden politics behind all of that process, because the hidden part of it was that these men that were leading these political parties, they wanted me to step in, to be voted with a maximum of vote, have me for 6 months. And as soon as I will get closer to 6 months, they will discharge me from the position, and they will be electing a man in that position. Yes. But I somehow was smarter than they were, because I was a lawyer, and I am a lawyer by background. And what I've done was that in my third month as the president, knowing what is going underneath, was I sent myself to the Constitutional Court by making for the first time the history in our country, because they got used to putting and electing the presidents, keeping them for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and then forcing the country to the parliamentary elections, forcing the presidents to resign, or sending them to the Constitutional Court, and driving the country from one political crisis to another political crisis. Not that I really wanted that job, because being frankly with you, after 24 hours, I was already done. I really said to myself, what the hell I'm doing there? And but it was other reasons why, which I will tell you later on, while I hanged on there. So after 3 months, I put the proposal together with my team, which, as a matter of fact, which I had 2 criteria before taking over my proposal, that my cabinet is going to be solely elected by me, that I'm not going to allow any of the political party to interfere with the elections of my team, because if I was the one to elect, to lead my country, I'm going to pick who is going to be my partners or collaborators to help me through that. And the second and the third was that half of my cabinet is going to be composed by the women, because for the first time the country was electing the first woman president, and I did not realize that I had 70% of the cabinet women. And because I was also representing the younger generation, 61% of the population of Kosovo are under the age of the 25. And so I said, like, the half of my cabinet, 61% of my cabinet is being composed by the young women and men inside the country and the outside of the country, that I ask from them to come and serve. And believe it or not, for 5 years I led the country only with 7 political advisors. I'm not counting here the administration of the presidency, which is a permanent there. But I had the smallest cabinet ever in the history of Kosovo. And so I sent myself to the Constitutional Court with one question: is the political agreement above the voting of the president? And so the Constitutional Court replied within 30 days that the president is being elected with 5 years of the mandate, and these are only the condition that he or she will be removed from the position. So another bomb was thrown in the country. Not that I really wanted to have my position, but I definitely wanted to introduce the new concept of the leadership in that country, that that office should and supposed to be serving to the country and not to the certain political elites or the political individuals, that they have a certain interests from one side being in the position or being in the opposition. For me, it was easier because I didn't belong to any of the political party. For me, it has been and continues to be my biggest honor to be able to serve to my country and to serve to my people. And my first message, what really kept me in the office, was that all of us, and you especially women, are very much connected with our mothers. And actually, I was very much connected with my father. I wouldn't be the person that I am today if it was not because of my father and the way that he raised me in a very patriarchal societies. We are only two of us, me and my brother, which is older than I am. And I always thought that I am the favorite in the family because I am the smartest one. And as a matter of fact, my brother is much smarter than I am, and he's a medical doctor. To the certain point that I asked my dad while we were dividing the finances for him and for myself, and that time we were really struggling with the finances before the wartime. And I said to my dad, and I said, Dad, I know that I am your favorite one, but Astrid chosen much expensive profession, and we should support him more. And I would give up on the finances and I would do for something less. And he goes, whoa, Fete, I thought that you are smarter. I hell don't love you more than your brother. But I do know that before this society will invest in the women the way that I'm investing on you, we will never be able to move even an inch. So I'm not doing this. I'm doing this because you are my daughter, but I'm doing this more for the country and for the future of the country, because I've seen something on you that maybe tomorrow you will see it on yourself. So far I haven't seen it, but hopefully I will be able to see it there. So the day that I gave the oath in the Parliament of Kosovo to take up my role as the president, the first phone call was done from my mom. And every time I mention this, which is maybe the third time that I mention publicly, is that the people were coming and congratulating me, the diplomatic corps, international organization, other people. And my personal assistant brings the phone, it's your mom on the phone. I said, tell the mom I will call her later. And she goes, it's your mom. And I said, okay. So I turned and I said, excuse me. I said, like, mom. And she goes, 2 seconds, my daughter, just congratulations, best of luck, and don't forget about me. And I said, like, I will never forget you, Mom. How can you say this? And she said, I'm not speaking as your mother. I'm speaking as the woman of this society. So that second, I stopped. I hand over my phone to my personal assistant. And that moment, it was the EU ambassador in front of me. And he looked at me and said, President, I said, Ambassador, I just got my very first task from my own mother. Mm-hmm. And that message has followed me from that moment and on. Mm-hmm. And that was another reason why I, no matter what I was going through my entire term as the president, because it was not the news what I was doing. There was no headlines about the decision I was taking, the recognition that I was getting for a country, because we were lobbying for the recognition of our newly created state, about our membership in international organizations, in the regional organizations, about attracting investment, improving the educational system, improving the health system, everything. The headlines were, what is the president wearing today? What kind of the skills she's having today, what kind of the nail polish, what kind of the hairstyle she's getting. Is she having the red lipstick or the different other long hairstyle? And so on and on. Maybe the 10th or the 15th headline was about, wait a second, what was she speaking today? What kind of the decisions she has been taken? And do you know the headlines were dominating that? Is as a commander-in-chief, is she going to send us in a war? Is if the nail finger will be broken? So this is that I had, yeah, exactly. This is what I had to go through. It did get to me because it hit me only a few years after I left the office, but I never allowed that to affect my daily work and my strategy and my vision where I was leading my country and the people, because I was their servant and I am their servant. I was the first president in our country that I refused to drive in the armed vehicles. It was very funny because the day that I took oath, I finished, it was around 10 o'clock at night. I was about to go to my car and I see about 15 black Chevrolets in front of them. And I said, oh, we have a new delegation. And I was coming back. I was like, no, President, this is your convoy. I said, my convoy, yes. Ah, okay. So I sat in the car, go home. The next day, go back. I sit with my team and I said, can somebody calculate to me how much one armed vehicle with a maximum armory will spend per 100 kilometers, within a day, within a month, within a year, and calculate that for the 15 cars or 7 cars, which is the shortest convoy, and multiply that with the average salary of this country, which, because we were poor, we are still poor country after the war. These are taxpayers' money. I am not afraid of my own people. If they want to kill me, then I am not going to serve them, because they don't want me. And so I took off the entire convoy. I went to the garage and I said, show me where is the cheapest car. I said, are you kidding with us? I said, I am not. It's that Audi there. How much spends that Audi? About 6 liters of diesel in 100 kilometers. I want that car. But it's 3 times accident. Bring me whatever papers I need to sign. I'm going to drive in that car. For 5 years, I drove exactly the same car, which was used by the spouse of the former president, 3-time accidented. And yeah, seriously. And I said, I am going to live the regular life of my entire citizen, because if I'm going to go and isolate myself with the villas, with the security guards everywhere, I'm not going to feel the needs of my citizens. I'm going to detach myself of the daily life. So I went and had a coffee where all other people, because I had that coffee before I became a president. Why I cannot have it now? I would have out and had the lunches. If I was going to the meetings from one closer direction to another, I walked and the people would stop me. The security was coming like, remove the security. People can come and ask me, shake the hands with me, because I will not know what is their concern, and mark my words and trust me, most of the strategies that I unfold, it came out of the stops and talking to the people. What are their real needs and demands? And the biggest mistakes that the politician has is that they don't lead with empathy. And I left my internal empathy to be able to lead my presidency. And no surprise now that even 10 years that I finish my mandate, I go as high as 78% of the trust of the people. Apparently I did something right.
You did something right.
Yeah.
You did something right. You did a lot right. So I have to share with you, I sit down in her office and she's telling me this story and other stories, and I just literally, it caught my breath. And then she asked if I would spend the day. We spent the day going to places throughout the city where she had built different things like children's hospitals, places where women that had been sexually raped and mutilated were doing clothing. Everyone came up to hug you and to touch you, and you spoke to them with such kindness. And I just want to share this. I don't know if you remember, but I said you reminded me of my dear friend, Lieutenant Governor Atifete, because people may or may not know this about Lieutenant Governor Atifete. I keep wanting to say Pamela Atifete. Pamela, she was not a politician. You are not a politician. Both of you kept your heart. You come from different religions, different political beliefs, different backgrounds, but both of you held on to your heart in serving people, which is such a gift because so many politicians are in it for the power or the money. Going to Martin Luther King and how he served and led, I saw this in you and what you did. And I want to tell you, people touched her. There wasn't a person that she did not greet. They loved her everywhere we went. But she took me to the Children's Hospital where they have one of the highest rates of cancer in the world because of the war that she developed. She took me to meet the women that had gone through this horrible abuse who are now doing clothing, which is definitely something that I want to tie in to South Carolina. And that's why if anyone heard the different messages, there's not room for hate. There's really not room for judgment. I want to tell you all, I feel in people when they're kind, not that I'm better than anyone else, but I can feel when people are kind immediately when I meet them. Yeah. I felt it in you. I saw it in the country. And I really want to talk a little bit about this, but I want the whole group to know, when you see something on the media, you see things in social media, it's not always true. No. It's our responsibility to tell the truth. Yeah. I am not an influencer. I have an amazing team in this room that have built over 5 million followers across 29 brands. The only reason we're doing that is to tell stories like Madam President's and Lieutenant Governor Atifete and Gabriel and the people in this room so we can stand up and, like you told about Jacqueline Kennedy, we have to tell the real story. We have to be inspired by women. We have to let go of the hate. We may not all agree. We're different color skin. We're from different cultures. But we have to agree to make a difference in this world and to stand up and do the right thing. She left the presidency. I want to tell everyone this. She continues to serve that country. I would love for her to tell a little bit about the children in the cancer center and what you've developed. And I don't know if you'll be able to do this, but I would love for you to tell the story of when you met with the women and how you handled it. Violence. And yeah. I want to say thank you because that's one of the reasons I wanted you to come to South Carolina was because of Lieutenant Governor Atifete. And again, two very different people, but two people that are touching people with their heart. My father is from a country town of 5,000 people. We were at dinner, and he sat down and took her drink and started drinking it. And Madam President went for a walk with him and spent the whole night talking to him. I've seen Pamela Atifete do the same thing. It's not about who's important in the room. It's about both these women touching people, being there to advocate for you all. And it's regardless of the political view, they care about you. I would love you to tell what you've done since then to establish that.
Well, Christine, in my term as the president, I, in a way, extended the table of the decision making and added more chairs to everyone who has been left for far too long outside of the process of the decision making, for women, for youth, for minority communities, and for the marginalized communities. At the same time, they are affected from our decision making. And that's why I have extended that table of decision making and added their chairs, the chairs for them. So it could make my job easier on the process of the decision making. When we speak about the survivors of sexual violence, it's something that has changed me forever. The reason why I say to you that is that I lived through the war. I never left the country during the entire wartime. I lived in the basement for the continuous months, not seeing the daylight, eating maybe once in a couple of days when we had the food, me and my entire family. And I was able to get out of that basement only a few months after that. When I went out, I thought that I forgot to walk because I didn't know how to walk. The sun was hitting on me. And I saw like, what is happening with me? But I did not really realize what really happened in my country. It was literally my third week as the President of Kosovo when my office received a call from one survived woman, survivor of sexual violence from a part of Drenica, which is in the heart of Kosovo. And to my luck, because I wouldn't be aware, I was that day passing through my front office to go to my office. And then suddenly I hear that time my assistant screaming in somebody's phone, I'm telling you that you cannot talk directly to the president. So I stand there, I put my bag in her table, leave her to finish the phone call. And I said, Kiki, with whom you were talking? And she goes, is this annoying lady that she's keep calling and that she wants to talk to you? And I said, okay. I said, call that number back and pass on to my office. And she goes, but? I said, no, but call, because whoever calls in this office, it must be the very last choice that they have. Just pass the line in my office. So I get to my office, like, but? I said, why but? Is she going to attack me through the phone or what? So I pick up the phone, and this voice of the lady, which is still echoes in my ear every time, goes, hello. I said, hello. I said, first of all, let me apologize for the behavior that you came across in my office. I said, is the president speaking? And she goes, no, this is not the president. I said, I don't know how my voice comes through the phone because I never speak to myself. But this is me. And I goes like, please take a minute, relax, and we talked. There was a break, there was a pause. And she goes, this is me, spelling her name. I'm from this village. And me and 35 other women from the village have been raped during the wartime. And we need to meet with you. And I said, like, okay, yes, do you want now? Do you want today, tomorrow, anytime you want? And she goes, you need to come to us because we cannot come to you because our husband doesn't know, our brother doesn't know, we cannot leave our village. I said, okay. Can I come to tomorrow because today it will be too late to go? And she goes, okay, but you have to come alone, unaccompanied. And I said, okay, we will have a little bit of problem there. I said, I'll figure out something, give me the phone number, give me the address, and I will be there. So I called my Secret Service, that lady that she was my Secret Service even before that time. She's over 20 years my Secret Service. And I called and said, Hikmete, I have this issue and I need to go alone, unmarked vehicle or with one driver at all. Absolutely not, you are not. Security rules doesn't allow you. I said, but. She's like, no but. I said, okay, cancel visit, I will not go. As soon as she went up, I pick up the phone and I call my mom. I said, like, Mom, do you have your car in the garage? And she goes like, yes, what are you doing? I said, don't say nothing, and we just live across the street. I said, take the car, park it in front of our building, and leave the keys inside. And usually the police was in front of my building. So I went through the garage, behind the building, get into my car, and my mom had a little puntos, you can imagine. So I get into the car, I drove, I know the village, I knew where but I didn't know the location. So I drive there, and I was about to pass one railway, and as soon as I passed, I stopped to ask a guy where, because they asked me to meet nearby the fare patrol. There was a house nearby that fuel station. And I said, where is this one? So I opened the window, and guy looked, is this the president? I said, no, it's not the president. I just look very much like president. I said, just tell me, where is this location? And he said, is like, you have to drive this way. And he showed me, it's like, okay, perfect. So I got the location. I drive very fast so that it doesn't inform the medias. So I go there. Behind that exactly, I see a big yellow house there. And nobody, and it's already start getting behind after the 5 o'clock, it's already start being down. And so I was for that moment I felt a little bit scared because nobody was there, and I thought it can be a trap, it can be everything. And so I stopped the car, I get out of the car, and then I see a lady coming, opening the door and getting the stairs, and she said, come here this way. Okay, so I go there, and by the way, I had my eye injured that time. I had my eye closed, so I removed so that they don't see me. So I go inside. It was 3 times bigger than this room. They were exactly 36 women sitting in the round, and few little kids there. I listened to them over 7 hours. I get into the car. Even today, I don't know how I drove back. It was just my memory, it just swiped. I don't know. I just know that I went home. I couldn't sleep the entire night. I text my personal assistant that time, Zana. I said, clear my agenda for 1 week because emotionally, physically, I am not ready. Why? What happened? I said another time. Because I needed that week to think what I'm going to do, how I'm going to approach that, how I'm going to initiate that taboo topic of our society. And my first day after I came back to the office was that I invited my Prime Minister, the entire government, and the members of the parliament. And I said, guys, because they were all of them men, I said, guys, we have this issue, and I'm going to take as the priority of my presidency the status of the survivors of the sexual violence. Guess what they turned to me? Well, President, we know that you are young, you are ambitious, but we wouldn't suggest you to do that. Because we closed that chapter immediately after the end of the war. People are not ready to talk about that. And don't forget, you have no political party supporting you. And literally, they were threatening me, we are going to eat you out. So I look at them all around my table. And I said, first of all, guys, 1 week ago, I made a promise that I'm not going to break it for nothing in this world. Second, you told me that you closed that chapter. How you can close something that you never opened? And the third, people are not ready. What makes you believe that they are not ready? So it took me 3 years. Negotiation to a negotiation. In every single moment, in every single day, threatening me that they are going to send me to the Constitutional Court to discharge me because I'm overstepping in the competence of the government and the parliament. Not that I really want it, but I didn't want to step down, so to leave this issue unfinished. Then for the first time in the history of the global history, with a presidential decree, was established the National Council for the Survivors of the Sexual Violence, where I brought around the same decision-making table, government, parliament, the civil society, media, diplomatic corps, and international community, to unfold rehabilitation, reintegration, resocialization, access to the justice, access to the free medical services, and opening the chapter of addressing the long-term stigma that was dominating towards the survivors of the sexual violence, at that time over 17 years after the end of the war. Few minutes before the meeting was about to start to launch the National Council, I was informed by my team that that meeting is going to be broken even before it started by few individuals here. Okay, I said, the whole meeting is going to be lively broadcasted in all of the national TVs in the country. So if they want the war, they will get the war in there. It was me against everybody. I didn't have nothing to lose there. So before starting the meeting, said, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We have this and this and this. And by the way, it's lively broadcasted in the whole public TVs. And that moment you could see to my left and the right scratching their speeches. I said, I just got them. This is nice what I'm going to do. And so 30 days after that launching, the law on the war values was amended with a maximum of votes for recognizing the legal status of the survivors of the sexual violence as the civilian victims of the war. Second one, it opened the institutional chapter for their rehabilitation, reintegration, resocialization, access to the free medical services, and access to the justice. Because I, as the president, was the one who was appointing judges and the prosecutors. And I appointed over 50% women judges and prosecutors who would be exclusively investigating the cases of the war survivors of the sexual violence in there. So it took me quite a while, but today it really fills me with that personal satisfaction that that issue is not anymore the taboo. And 1 month after, I could look straight in the eyes every politician in our country and say to them, actually, people were always ready to talk about that. But that what they were lacking was, they were lacking the leadership to rally the people about that open wound of our society in there. Going back to the Children's Hospital, yes. In the very first days as the president, I was bombed with the requests of mothers, fathers, family members, of making requests to send for the overseas treatment in Italy, in Germany, in Turkey, for all of the malignant diseases. And our very limited budget of our Ministry of Health couldn't meet the needs of every family. They could probably cover for 10, 15, 20, or 100 of them, but not thousands of them. And so it broke my heart. I don't have children of mine, but it just broke my heart every time my office was returning negatively a family that I sat there and I said, oh my God, do they have to sell all of their property? And maybe it will not be enough to cure the leukemia or to cure anything else. That is institutional obligation. That's a state obligation. And we cannot live like that. And so on my very first visit to United Arab Emirates, I approached the Mother Queen there. And she asked me, Madam President, what can I do for you? And I said, Children's Hospital for malignant diseases for the children of Kosovo and the region. And she goes, you're not asking anything personal? I said, no, I just need that to save the life of the young people of Kosovo and our children, because we suffered a lot and we cannot handle to suffer more on that. And so you visited that. It's a state-of-art hospital. It's the most modern pediatrical hospital, not only in Kosovo, but entire region of the southeastern part of the Europe, that in daily basis is saving the lives of the young children. And in daily basis, my team receives messages. They do posting. Even our diaspora, when they come from abroad to spend their holidays, the children get sick and they treat them. We never believed that Kosovo has this kind of the hospital. And so I started by saying that we are the servant to our countries and to our people. And I took my mandate with that approach of being forever their servant. And I will continue, even after leaving the office now with the Jahjaga Foundation, I continue to support exactly the same group, women, youth, marginalized communities, and to support the reconciliation, because we still have so many of the open issues. I started with this strong network about the women that Karen said mentioned in the very beginning, that I did not have. Back in 2012, 1 year after I was elected, I opened the first Women's Summit in Kosovo with a quote that the women have a tendency to be the biggest enemies of their own kind. I felt on my own skin, and I'm sorry to say this, but I know the reason why I'm saying that, because I felt men, they don't know nothing about makeup, about shoes, about heels, or anything else. Women were the ones that started criticizing me initially. And when they unfolded that platform, then the men were building into that and continuing. Boys, they have their old boys club. But what we are missing, we women have our women's club. You could never ever hear me criticizing even those that criticize me publicly. Criticize them publicly. Even though that they deserve, they were big times wrong. I pulled them aside and I said, that was very wrong. Never ever do that. Not because of yourself, because of our own kind. Criticize in private, praise in public. This is the only way that we stick to each other and we support each other.
I was so touched by that story, but what I found so interesting again was in my head, being touched so much by what you've done and feeling it and knowing it wasn't fake, and then knowing amazing women we have here. And I know I keep bringing up Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evatt. You've got two women that are completely different religious backgrounds, different political views. Both people, though, are standing for women, standing for making a difference, standing for making a change, and standing to be strong, but to love and forgive and keep going every day. That's what we have to do to make this country strong. We have to have women that we're backing, that we're supporting together, that we understand care about us. This has changed this country. This story is changing the world. We will share it, and we have to share the story about the women in this room and the men that are politicians or in government that can lead and serve and remain having their hearts with the people. It's hard to be a leader and to go against societal things that have always happened. But that's what Elysium has stood for. That's what the state has stood for. And I'd like all of you guys to thank Madam President for what